Chapter 1. The Emptiness. You pray every single day. You read your Bible. You go to church. You serve. You try so hard to feel close to God. And yet, nothing. Just emptiness. Just silence. Like He's a million miles away. If that's you, here's what nobody's telling you. It's not because you're not trying hard enough. In fact, what if trying harder is exactly what's blocking His love? For centuries, something has been missing from how we approach God. Something the earliest Christians knew. Something that got lost along the way. And once you understand what happened, everything about your faith will finally make sense. Chapter 2. The Exhaustion. Here's what this looks like for millions of Christians. Every Sunday in that pew. Singing, serving, volunteering. You pray before meals. Read your devotional. Do everything a good Christian is supposed to do. But when you close your eyes to pray, you feel empty. Like you're talking to the ceiling. Like God is disappointed in you. Like no matter how much you do, it's never enough. You start wondering what's wrong with you. Why everyone else seems to feel something you can't. So you try harder. Earlier mornings, more fasting, another Bible study. Desperate to feel something, anything. But the harder you try, the more exhausted you become. And the emptiness? It only grows. And here's the part that breaks my heart. You start to believe it's your fault, that you're the problem, that you're just not spiritual enough to experience what other Christians claim to feel. But millions of devoted believers feel exactly the same way, carrying the same shame, feeling the same failure, all while doing everything their church told them to do. You're not alone in this. And it's not because you stopped believing in Jesus. It's because you've never been taught how to actually receive what He promised. But what if the problem isn't you? What if the system itself is broken? Chapter 3. What Jesus actually said. Let's go back to what Jesus actually promised. In John 15, He says, "Abide in me and I in you." Not work harder, not perform better. Abide. Think about that word. A branch doesn't struggle to stay connected to the vine. It doesn't try to earn its place. It simply remains. And because it remains, life flows naturally. Or listen to Matthew 11. "Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." Rest. Not more rules. Not endless striving. Rest. The earliest Christians understood this. They practiced something they called abiding, a way of being constantly aware of Christ's presence. Not through effort, through surrender. They had a direct, experiential connection with Jesus that transformed everything. Chapter 4. The Year. Everything changed. But then, in the year 325 AD, everything began to change. The Roman Emperor Constantine, ruler of the most powerful empire on earth, called a meeting, the Council of Nicaea. 300 bishops from across the known world gathered in a grand palace. Now here's what's important to understand. Constantine wasn't a spiritual leader. He wasn't even baptized yet. He was a politician who just won a brutal civil war, and he saw Christianity as the perfect tool to unify his fractured empire. And in that moment, Christianity began its transformation from a mystical, experiential faith into an organized, institutional religion. Over the next few centuries, the focus shifted. Instead of teaching people how to experience Christ's presence directly, the church began emphasizing doctrines, hierarchies, and rules. External performance over internal transformation. Why? Think about it. An institution that emphasizes structure and hierarchy naturally focuses on what it can measure and control. Personal mystical experience is subjective, unpredictable. It doesn't fit neatly into organizational systems. In the centuries after Jesus, there were Christians who fled to the deserts of Egypt and Syria. They're called the Desert Fathers. They developed powerful contemplative practices, the prayer of the heart, ways of abiding that transformed them completely. But as Christianity became more organized, these practices simply weren't emphasized to common believers, not because of some conspiracy, but because institutions naturally prioritize what they can systematize. Chapter 5. What was lost? Fast forward to today. Most Christians have never even heard of these practices. They've never been taught that there's another way. The contemplative practices, they survived in some monastic traditions, especially in the Eastern Orthodox Church. But for most Western Christians, they simply stopped being taught. And without these tools for experiencing God's presence, Christianity became focused almost entirely on belief and behavior, head knowledge and rule following. And so, generation after generation, believers have focused on external performance. Go to church. Follow the rules. Do more. Be better. Earn God's approval. Until we arrived at today, where millions of devoted believers are exhausted, empty, and convinced they're spiritual failures. Chapter 6. Why you feel this way. This is why you feel the way you do. And here's what I need you to hear. It was never your fault. You weren't broken. You weren't spiritually deficient. You were just never given the tools. You've been taught a version of Christianity that emphasizes doing over being. You can't feel God's love because you're trying to earn what He's already freely giving. But here's the beautiful truth. What was lost can be found again. The practices the early Christians used, they still work. The direct experience of Christ's love that the saints wrote about, it's still available. You don't need to try harder. You need to try differently. What if you could shift from striving to abiding, from earning to receiving? What if the way forward isn't adding more, but discovering what's been there all along? And when you do, something shifts. That emptiness you've carried, it begins to fill. That distance you felt from God, it dissolves. That shame that's been crushing you, it lifts. Picture waking up in the morning. Instead of that familiar knot of anxiety, did I pray enough yesterday? Did I mess up? You feel a quiet knowing. I am loved, right now, as I am. Prayer stops being a performance you're graded on. It becomes a conversation with someone who actually wants to hear from you. This isn't wishful thinking. It's what thousands throughout history have experienced, and it's what's waiting for you. But experiencing it requires a different approach than what you've been taught. Chapter 7. The Way Forward. So how do you actually make this shift? How do you move from striving to abiding? Maybe you're thinking, I've tried things before. What if this is just another disappointment? I understand that hesitation. But here's the difference. This isn't a new program to add to your list. It's learning what's been missing all along. It's not complicated. It's not about adding more obligations to your life. It's about discovering the practices that create genuine connection with Christ. You were never meant to carry this shame. You were never meant to feel this distant from God. Jesus said, "Come to me and find rest." Not try harder and maybe I'll love you. The love you've been searching for, it's already here. You just need to learn how to receive it. I know because I was exactly where you are. I spent years feeling that same emptiness, that same shame, doing everything right but feeling nothing. And when I discovered these ancient practices, the same ones the early Christians used, everything changed. If it can work for me, it can work for you. I went through a 7-day journey that taught me these practices. 7 days, a few minutes each day. And by the end, I knew how to actually feel God's presence. Not just believe He loves me, but feel it. If you want to experience the same transformation, I've put that journey in the description below. It's the same one that changed everything for me. You don't have to keep living with this emptiness. You don't have to keep wondering if you're good enough. What's already yours? God's love. And it's been waiting for you all along. That emptiness, it doesn't have to be your forever. That silence, it can become conversation. This is your moment. This is where everything can change. The door is open. The invitation stands. And Jesus is waiting. Not with disappointment, but with open arms.